So what is marijuana? Marijuana refers to the dried leaves, stems, seeds from the hemp plant, cannabis sativa, which contains psychoactive chemical, THC. The long name is delta-9 terahydrocannabinol, THC. That's what makes you stoned in marijuana, as well as some other compounds. This plant material can be concentrated into a resin called hashish, or an oil called liquid, or a liquid called hashish oil or hash oil. It is the most common illicit drug used in the United States. This is an important slide for you guys to see. I've got pictures of what the plant looks like, what the dried plant looks like, and what the oil looks like. Other names that you guys probably know it by: weed, grass, pot, skunk, dope, reefer, Mary Jane, blunt. So some quick facts for you. In 2013, 7% of 8th graders, 18% of 10th graders, and 23% of 12th graders used marijuana in the past month. The amount of THC in marijuana has increased over the last few decades, from about 4% to 15 or more percent. The amount of THC, I just told you that. Alcohol and marijuana are the most common drugs abused by teenagers. So how's it used? Usually it's smoked, hand-rolled cigarettes called joints. It can be put in a pipe, a water bong. Blunts are basically cigars that have been emptied out of their tobacco and either refilled with a mixture of marijuana and tobacco or just marijuana. It can also be mixed in food. I'm sure you've heard a lot of this with the stuff going on in Colorado and children getting a hold of these marijuana-laced candy bars. It has a really stinky odor. Once you smell it, you won't forget it. This is your health risks of marijuana in your body and how it affects your brain, your lungs, your heart. Slows reaction time, impairs your visual tracking. So when the police officer is putting his finger in front of your eyes, that's what he's looking for. So THC acts on the cannabinoid receptors in your brain. Cannabinoid receptors are part of the endocannabinoid system. This system plays an important role in normal brain development and function. This is the brain, and these are the areas where the cannabinoid receptors are: the basal ganglia, the hippocampus, and the cerebellum. Those are the areas that control your balance, your sensation. The highest density of these receptors are found in parts of the brain that influence pleasure, memory, perception, and coordinated movement. Marijuana overactivates these endocannabinoid system, causing the high and other effects. Effects include altered perceptions and mood, impaired coordination, difficulty with thinking and problem solving, also disrupted learning and memory. Marijuana does affect your brain development. You are all still pretty young in here. Your brain does not stop developing until you're 25. It's critical in these years that you not put anything in there that's going to affect that. A long-term study in New Zealand shown heavy marijuana smoking in teens lost an average of 8 IQ points between the age of 13 and 38. These lost cognitive abilities were not fully restored even when the adults quit smoking. So movement, sensation, vision, judgment, reward, memory, and coordination. These are all the areas of your brain that are affected. So how does it affect your lungs? Well, it's a lung irritant just like cigarette smoke would be, and you're going to experience a lot of these same respiratory symptoms that a smoker would: daily cough, phlegm production, frequent chest colds, bronchitis, pneumonia, other health problems. But all these are going to lead to missing more days of school and work because of these respiratory illnesses. Now I have a picture here of 2 lungs, one lung from a regular smoker smoking cigarettes and one from the marijuana smoker. Well, since the marijuana deposits 4 times more tar in your lungs, their lungs look a lot worse than a typical smoker. So what does it do to your heart? It will increase your heart rate 20 to 100% shortly after smoking. This can last for up to 3 hours. Marijuana users have a 4.8 increase in heart attack risk the first hour after smoking. And depending on their age and any pre-existing heart conditions, they increase their heart attack risk even more. Mental health. High doses can produce a temporary psychotic reaction involving hallucinations and paranoia. Hallucinations are seeing, feeling, or tasting things that aren't there. Nobody else can see them but you. Paranoia is accusing people of stealing stuff, being worried that someone's out to get you. Marijuana can worsen conditions such as schizophrenia. There has been a link shown between marijuana use and later development of psychosis. It's also linked to depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, personality disturbance, including lack of motivation and lack of motivation to engage in things that are typically considered fun. What if you're pregnant? Well, if you're pregnant, you're going to have an increased risk to the neurobehavioral problems for the baby. It does alter the developing brain of the fetus, with consequences long-lasting for the child, including attention and memory and problem-solving abilities. What about driving? It does seriously impair driving. Because of your motor coordination being impaired, you increase the risk of injury or death while driving a car. Maybe it'll come on. No. So marijuana use more than doubles your risk of being in an accident while driving. The combination of marijuana and alcohol is worse than either the alcohol alone or the marijuana alone. Some people say, oh, you can't get addicted to pot. Well, you can. 9% of users become addicted. This increases to 17% or 1 in 6 of those who start young. So the younger you start, the worse your long-term effects and the more likelihood you're going to be addicted. 25 to 50% of daily users have addiction problems with it. Long-term users report withdrawal symptoms, including irritability, sleeplessness, decreased appetite, anxiety, and craving the drug. Marijuana will affect your entire life. Lower life satisfaction has been reported from marijuana users, poor mental and physical health, more relationship problems, less academic and career success compared to non-marijuana users, and a higher likelihood of dropping out of school. Increased absences, tardiness, accidents, workers' compensation claims, and job turnover. I did want to put the synthetic marijuana in here as well. Some common names: K2, spice, sold as plant food, bath salts, Scooby snacks. And these have been found widely in head shops and gas stations until recently. The DEA has decided that since there are no medical benefit and that they're dangerous, they have been determined Schedule I substance and pulled off of these shelves. It has been marketed as safe and a legal alternative. It is not safe and it is not legal. I have seen people come in with overdoses or with even just using one time this synthetic marijuana spice. I think she called it bath salts. And I think she was messed up forever. I mean, just acting totally bizarre, very paranoid, anxious, can't sit still. There is a case of a stepchild of an emergency room physician in another state who had smoked this, was exhibiting paranoid behaviors, thought the police were after him. They took him to the emergency department and determined that they would take him home and keep a close eye on him. The father fell asleep, and during the night he shot himself in the head from one time of using spice. The product is labeled not for human consumption. Most people smoke this product. It does contain some dried, shredded plant material, but it has chemical additives that are responsible for the mind-altering effects. The chemicals used have a high potential for abuse, and they've no medical benefit, as I discussed a minute ago. DEA has designated the 5 active chemicals most frequently used as a Schedule I controlled substance, much like marijuana, making it illegal to buy, sell, or possess. This is second to marijuana by the drug most frequently used by high school seniors. So it does act on the same cell receptors as THC. It binds more strongly to these receptors and can have a more powerful and unpredictable effect. It may contain substances that could cause dramatically different effects than expected. So instead of the relaxed, chilled out state they wanted, they got paranoid and anxious and ended up in the emergency room. Legal consequences, KRS 218A 1430, possession of a synthetic drug, that's this Spice K2 stuff, is a Class B misdemeanor. You'll spend $250 in fines and 30 days in jail. Possession of marijuana is a Class B, $250 fine, and a 45-day jail sentence. I have a couple website resources on my slide. And I also have a video.
It was around when I was 13 or 14, and you kind of find yourself trying to pick and choose your friends. And also at the same time, you're not really worried about what you want to accomplish at that time, but what people you want to hang out with.
I wanted to fit in.
Wasn't a popular kid in school, and it made me forget about all that.
Like, oh yeah, everybody else is doing it, so I'm gonna do it.
Friends were doing it.
I just wanted to jump right in and have fun. I did drugs because it seemed like it was fun.
It was the cool thing to do.
The cool thing to do was to get high, go to parties.
Growing up, you struggling.
Couldn't deal with life, so I didn't have to deal with life.
I wouldn't listen to anyone. I was stubborn.
Like as a rebellious thing.
This is what the rebel kids were doing.
I just wanted to see what it was like.
I started experimenting with it.
Experimenting with friends.
First tried it because I was bored.
I was always up to try something new.
When I was growing up, we had this program. It was just say no, just say no.
People are just saying no, but they're not saying why.
It's like telling a person no and then they go do it.
Sparked my interest on drugs.
I knew that they were bad, and I always heard about this addiction, but I didn't know what it meant.
That's probably the #1 reason why I did drugs in the first place. I just didn't know.
Drugs are everywhere. They're in magazines, movies, TV shows, billboards. They're all over the place. In the movies they make it look cool, but in real life it's not cool. It's a serious problem.
And a lot of times they try to glamorize drugs, like make drug dealers or getting high look cool, but that's only in the movies. In real life, it's a whole different story.
All drugs, whether we're talking about alcohol, marijuana, LSD, these are all essentially poisons.
It would depend on the amount that you take. A lesser amount might just speed you up, make you feel really active. Stronger amount or stronger dosage would act as a sedative, make you slow, sluggish, tired. And even more amounts, it would kill you. You'd have an overdose.
Every drug works in these stages. It's only really the amount needed to make the effect that's the difference from drug to drug.
A person who's taking drugs, whether for physical pain or just to try and block off any sensations they don't want to feel, those sensations are actually just being pushed away and getting worse and worse.
You're going to be totally numb and just not be able to feel anything.
When you take drugs, the drug goes through your bloodstream, and later on in your life, that drug can, come back up and into a flashback when you use the drug.
You could have taken LSD one day and like a year down the road, it could come back into effect and you can start hallucinating again.
And it's not just LSD, it's every drug. So you can get hit with the effects of a drug even a long time after you stop taking them.
Drugs definitely affect the mind. Everything you see around you is different than what's really going on. You can't hear correctly, see correctly. All of your senses are totally thrown off. Your perception is definitely distorted. It makes it dangerous for you and others because you don't know what's going on. You can't handle things, the way they're supposed to be handled.
Drugs affect your memory so much. It doesn't matter if you're taking them for a long time or just a short period of time.
I know, when I first just tried studying and stuff more, I really couldn't concentrate, I couldn't pay attention.
I went from a straight A student to
a B- student, C student.
Then I quit going to school and I would get really frustrated.
It's like your brain won't function. You can't think straight. It's like everything is messed up.
I never got anything done. I would start on something and I wouldn't finish it. It just didn't happen.
It was just unbearable. I couldn't deal with life at all. I couldn't get a job because I was like just out of it completely.
My decisions were based off of, what this drug is telling me to do rather than, what I want to do.
I got them from friends in school.
2 friends.
A friend of mine.
My older brother's friends.
Bunch of girlfriends.
Boyfriend.
Ex-boyfriend. Older guy. My dad.
My cousin. My brother.
My older sister.
Older kids.
My buddy just said, you can do it every once in a while, it'll be no problem.
Told us it was going to be the best thing we've ever done.
If you do it once, you'll be fine.
It's not gonna hurt you really.
It's just a little pick-me-up. You can't get addicted to it.
They said it's not something that you're going to be taking every day. It's just something that you can take when you want to have fun.
Oh, this is going to be a fun time.
It's a fun drug to be on. Makes you easier to talk to girls.
And they said it'll bring you up. It's gonna make you feel different. You're gonna like it. You're gonna feel good.
It's all in your face that's the thing to do.
All it is taking a drug dealer's word for it.
When you're trying to get someone hooked, you'll say whatever you can to get a customer. You're lying for them to believe you so you can make money.
I would tell people it's fun, makes you energetic, makes you more likable. It's something people want to be around. I tell them whatever they wanted to hear in order to pick that first one up.
When I was 12 years old, I didn't say, hey, I want to be 24 in rehab. I never said that to myself. But that's what became true. And I never thought about it when I was 13 years old. I started smoking pot.
I was that kid that started out with marijuana and played around with certain party drugs, whatnot, and I told myself specifically that I would never do certain things, cocaine, heroin, and it only took a short time for me to finally accept it and be like, okay, I'll try that.
I had no idea where it would lead me, to almost dying, to stealing, lying, cheating, ruining relationships. It didn't matter.
I didn't get into sports. I didn't get into the clubs. I didn't even go to prom.
It left me with living on the streets without a family, and is that what I set out to be? No. You know what I mean? I was just set out to have a good time at college parties.
The drugs robbed me of all the pleasure of life. The drugs took away my family. The drugs took away my girlfriend, my friends.
I looked back on 5-6 years of my life and saw that all I had done is absolutely just ruined incredible opportunities that I had to have success and hurt all the people around me.
It's not just something that's going to affect tomorrow, it's going to affect forever.
You don't have to find out everything for yourself. You don't have to find out what a car accident experience is like.
Do yourself a favor. Don't fall into the same footsteps as so many other people have.
And realize that you could be the guy living under the bridge shooting heroin.
You might think you won't get like that. None of us ever did, and we wound up in those same shoes.
What I would tell people is just, I would give them my story.
I would tell them my exact story. I would tell them my story.
A story like mine.
Insanity in my story.
Ultimately, it comes down to their own decision making.
You have to get the facts, check the statistics.
Find out for yourself.
Find out for yourself.
Find out the actual truth of what these are and what they're going to do to your life.
I would just say to anybody, if you're going to do something, if you're really going to do something, go educate yourself on it beforehand. I think there's a lot of truth in that.
They told me you might enjoy hearing some stories from the emergency room about overdoses that I've seen. Right now, I don't know if some of you have seen the news or read an article in the paper about the heroin overdoses in our community. In a course of 2 days this past weekend, we had 10 heroin overdoses. 2 of those people died. Why do people overdose on heroin? What causes it? Well, heroin is an opioid, different from marijuana. It's like a narcotic. Makes you really sleepy. And sometimes just one dose, just a little more, makes all the difference. And just who you buy it from. But, drug dealers can't be trusted. They're not your friend. They're there to make money. They're not selling you something to do something good for you. They're selling you something to make money. So heroin users typically snort or inject their heroin. And not very long after that, they get a very sedate effect. They can stop breathing, If they are not found, if someone is not with them and aware of what's going on, they will die. They've stopped breathing. When they're found, usually their lips are blue, their fingernail beds are blue, and they may be breathing a couple times a minute. Well, that's not enough. 911's called typically. Paramedics respond, put an IV in if they can. If they can't, they'll give a drug called Narcan. They'll squirt it up their nose. Heroin abusers absolutely destroy their veins because they're injecting this drug. It irritates their veins, and their veins are horrible. So sometimes you can't get an IV on these people. So you have to put the drug up their nose. Within a couple minutes, they usually come around. Sometimes they don't. If they've been down for a while and have an anoxic brain injury, which is a brain injury from not having enough oxygen in your brain, they might never wake up. They may never be right. There's a young man in Bellevue who has been featured in the Enquirer. I don't know if y'all saw that story a while back, who had overdosed on heroin in front of his drug dealer's house in Cincinnati. He's pretty much dependent on his entire family to take care of him because of his choice. If you're being pressured with a group of friends and they're saying, come on, it's cool, it's no big deal, just do it. Say, I can't. I just can't. I don't want to. I can't because I've got plans. I want to go to college. I want to have a successful career. Just tell them you can and don't do it, not even the first time. As I was talking about the drug dealers and not being very trustworthy, they do mix stuff with marijuana as well. So you really have no idea what you're getting. You can get marijuana that's mixed with spice, or you can just get spice and end up with some pretty tragic results. Any questions?
You lost your mic, so talk about it.
I'll let
Like it's off.
Okay. Any questions? I guess not. I have seen heroin overdoses from every school, from every neighborhood, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're in the middle, it doesn't matter. But I can tell you this, every heroin user did marijuana. So don't even start with that. Now, not every marijuana user is going to do heroin, but don't start. I have a story of a young man who did really well. Through high school, he did the Just Say No, and he got to college. He went to NKU, and he's a very close personal friend of mine. And he started smoking pot, and he did it a lot. Well, he ended up selling it to support his habit, and he got caught. Well, he was 3 classes away from graduating with his teaching degree. Do you think any school would hire him now? No. He already worked for a school. He was their coach, one of their coaches. He was selling to the kids. So his life now is so much different than it would have been. He'd had summers off, weekends off, nights off, holidays off, a teacher schedule. Not that they're off all summer, but he'd had a good income, he'd had good insurance. Now he manages fast food, and he works every day of the week. And he has to rent a house because he can't afford to buy one. I mean, his life could have been so much different from one decision. One decision.